an even better guy, Nate Bauer.
Oh, wow. So kind. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you, as a matter of fact. So. Nothing like a coordinator search to juice up the fan base. How fun a ride has this been?
We are having so much fun. If you haven't subscribed to Blue White Illustrated, now is the time. All the nuggets, the juice on our message board. Check us out.
I'm sure it is filled with incredible speculation. There are names on there that you probably never dreamed you'd think of.
Speculation, Steve. You know me better than that.
I said there are names on there that they're throwing at you that you're like, really?
Yeah, look, it's been some twists and turns. I mean, I think let's put our cards on the table. Penn State took a shot at D'Anton Lynn, a proud son of Penn State football, who James Franklin did not dance around at all, right, leading into that game, how invested he has been in D'Anton Lynn. Right? It's actually really funny looking back at the quotes of Franklin's press conference going into the USC game. His first line, he goes through the offense and the defense, and he was like, the defensive coordinator, Dan Lynn, who we know very well, right? And then maybe 10 minutes later in the press conference, like, James, you said you know him very well. What's your relationship like with him, blah, blah, blah. And James's answer was, I don't know him at all. I don't know him at all. We don't know each other professionally, but I keep tabs closely on Penn State guys, right? People who have been in the program and are having success, and obviously Dan has had that. Didn't work out, right? Shortly within the time frame of Penn State's interest in him, it was reported that he signed a contract improvement, extension to his deal with Southern Cal, and so he and his family will be staying there on the West Coast. But it's one of those things where when you're covering a coordinator search, or even just a position coach, it doesn't really matter. The key to keep in mind, I think, that maybe fans don't understand sometimes, is the ride is always moving, always, for everybody. It's moving for Penn State. It's moving for the candidates. There is no. James Franklin has laid out in the past that he has a list, right, of people, the short list of guys who he would be interested in for every job that there is available in the Lash building. Okay, but their availability and the way that it works, it not only does it change from year to year, it can change from day to day. and so you're constantly trying to keep that keep that list updated, but also understanding that guys are going to be interested, they're going to not be interested, timing of taking other jobs, right? Guys who would have been interested had they not recently signed a contract extension themselves, right? That all of those things come into play, and it's just a tough thing to balance, but also one where I think people's perceptions are that if you miss once, that's it. It's not. There's you can be patient in this process and kind of let things play out and try to organize yourself as best as you can and get the best guy into the best job.
Well, there are dominoes in all this. Let's give you a professional domino today. Aaron Glenn took the New York Jets job. Okay. So he's leaving the Detroit Lions as a defensive coordinator. Well, that means, what does that mean? Well, that means that the Detroit Lions need to hire a defensive coordinator, and so do the Jets. Okay? So I mean, there's a domino effect to all of these things that come up that, James anticipates all this stuff. Everybody knew that Ben Johnson who went to the Bears and Aaron Glenn were going to get head coaching jobs. Okay? But it creates a domino We're now suddenly, I need this guy, I need this guy, I need this guy. And now all of a sudden, all the pieces on the board start moving again.
Yep, and it's constant. It has been that way right for a couple of weeks, and what makes it interesting to me is the timing of Penn State having such an extended season throws off by 6 weeks.
Yep.
Right? What would otherwise be the normal rhythms and cycles of this thing. If you look back at when they hired Manny Diaz, when they hired Tom Allen, when they hired Andy Kotelnicki, all of those were December hires, right? The early to mid-December hires. So, the fact that Penn State played into January really kind of upended that, and it changes the cycle a little bit and who's available, who's not.
Yeah, I mean, it's all part of it. We talk about NIL. We just saw a couple of really good examples, and a third example of what was seen from Penn State in the last couple of weeks. What NIL and or the money coming from the athletic department once the April 7th deal is approved can do to roster retention. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, very much so. And I think it's a combination of the two, but heavily weighted toward rev share. Right? You have this pot of money that wasn't previously available that you now can direct toward the retention of your players. And certainly there are parallels. When you look at Ohio State and just the wealth of recruiting that, right? I mean, they were so good. They have had such a run of high-end recruiting 4- and 5-star kids. Penn State's not that, but at the same time, there is no denying that the best pieces, the highest-rated recruits of the best class, right, in terms of a recruiting cycle that Penn State has had out of the past few, are all back. Right? They're all sticking around for Penn State. Nick Singleton, Denai Dennis-Sutton, Drew Aller, Katron Allen, right? Like, these are guys who are Zane Durant, right? Like, go down the list of those 2022's class guys. They're all coming back for the most part, and it gives that. Look at the blueprint. Like, it's out there. Michigan in 2023, Ohio State this year. If you can incentivize remaining in college and giving it another go to your best players, all of whom have experience, you set yourself up really, really well for success. And Penn State obviously heavily invested in its players to bring a lot of those guys back.
Right, so this is what I find interesting, because we're going to see how Linda McMahon, once she is confirmed as the Department of Education secretary, cabinet member, I'm sure it's going to have to come up because the Biden administration guidance in the final 72 hours of the administration said that the $20.5 million was going to have to be split between men's and women's sports because of Title IX. With all due respect, I always thought Title IX was about opportunity, and not that's how I always viewed it. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I didn't think it had to be a 50-50 split, like, financially. The way, and I think that's something that's got to be brought up, because you and I both know of the $20.5 million. Let's just do a roundabout area. 15 to 17 million, depending on which program it is across the country, who's going to earmark it for football.
Yep. Another 2 for basketball, at least.
Right. Yes.
I mean, I'll be honest with you here, and politics is not my game.
I got it.
Reading courts' opinions is not my game, and certainly that includes the Supreme Court. What I will say is I have doubts about even the House settlement standing up to the rigors of judicial tests. Right? I mean, the whole system, everything that is proposed, yes, they're proceeding as though those things will come to fruition, but this idea of being capped on what you can make or how you can capitalize on your name, image, and likeness is not there. Right? I mean, it's a 9-0 decision saying that you can't prevent somebody from maximizing their potential. And so, I think that there is a bunch to sort out. And the caveat to all that is all of these schools, including Penn State, have, I want to call it a plan B, but I would say workarounds.
Right, they do. That's what people don't realize. There are end runs here.
Is legally required to split evenly.
Right.
$20 million. It's just not. It's not what it is. It's not. I don't even think women's athletics has an expectation of that. Certainly, you're going to see tests in courts around the country to the ins and outs of all of this as they try to settle on something, some type of system. But that's not going to be what it is. It's just not.
No, there are end runs. There's no way. You'd rather just do it directly than having to do an end run. I mean, it's easier for everybody. I know you don't follow court cases, but I'll give you one. There is a court case in Oregon, and you know which athletes challenged this? It was the beach volleyball team and the club rowing team.
Yeah.
Right. Over here in the back. Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It just certainly everybody has a right to be heard, and the challenges can happen in court, and those things will all play themselves out. But the words that I use, and I don't. I think that when I say it, it comes across as flippant. But I like to describe it as money laundering, and the mechanisms are all in place for everyone to do that. Right? You don't have to have the athletic department itself make payments directly to student athletes. Every single major university athletic department has a collective at this point. Every single major university athletic department has major sponsors at this point. Right? There are ways to either get the money off your books or never have it on your books in the first place, so that it is not coming out of your budget, right? And so yes, I guess legally you are cleared of those responsibilities, but in practice that's not how it works.
All right, so let's I'll get on to basketball here in a second. Let's just have a little bit of fun. Texas Tech loosely revealed what they wanted to do before the Biden administration's guidance. Okay, so football, they were going to do 69% as their average percent of attributable revenue. They were going to take 74% of the money and give it to football, $15.2 million. Men's basketball, they get 17% of their attributable revenue. So they're going to give them 17 to 18% of the projected revenue, which is 3.48 to 369. Okay. Women's basketball, 2.6%. They're going to get 2% at $410,000. Baseball, 4.9%. They're going to give them $389,000. And I think women's soccer and women's volleyball are going to get $840,000 to $1 million. Everybody else was going to get zero. So, I mean, I'm just telling you what Texas Tech, what they put this out, what the original plan was, so everybody understands. Because, they don't have wrestling. They have men's track and field, cross country, women's softball, women's soccer, women's volleyball, men's golf, women's tennis, men's tennis, and that's all we got. So there you go.
Yeah, Penn State's got 31.
Yep.
But of those 31, an oft-discussed point is 3 finish the year positive, right, in terms of money that that they make. So college athletics is look. There are longer discussions to be had.
One of the three is not wrestling. One of the three is not wrestling, which baffles people.
Correct. When you spend as much as you do to win all the time, yeah, you're going to operate at a loss, especially when tickets are $15.
Right.
You know,
I just want people in seats. I don't worry about that part.
Nor should you. It's. I've always compared it to an Oscar winner.
Right.
Right. Oscar winners don't make money in the box office. It is not the summer smash hit.
Yep.
That's not the point. The point is prestige, outreach. It is something for your mantle. It is excellence personified. That is what the Penn State wrestling program is.
Yep.
There is no shame in that.
Absolutely.
It is excellence. You ride that as long as you can and you want to.
Absolutely.
But
I completely agree.
Football and men's basketball are, along with a small revenue from men's ice hockey, are the only programs that make money.
Yep.
And so this is the overall challenge and the overall, right, like, where does it all boil down to? It boils down to the fact that college athletics is a billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar entertainment industry, right, in bed with higher education. And it's only applicable to two sports, men's basketball and football. And so what is the role and relationship of taxpayer-influenced, right, higher education, academia, like the highest pursuits of intellect that we have in this country? Why are they associated, and what is the connection? What's the relationship between them and football, entertainment football, right? And so all of those things are so far down the rabbit hole at this point that it's hard to untangle them. And I think it's a constant struggle for people who are in positions of power and stakeholders to address the issues as they are right now rather than what they should be in the first place. And that's where they are, and until those are untangled, it's going to continue to be that.
Basketball needed a win on Monday night. They got it. Nate, the timing couldn't have been better. What were your thoughts on watching it?
Yeah, desperately, right? And almost didn't, right? They got it to 2 a couple of times there after Penn State had a 10-point advantage with 4.5 to play-ish.
Yep.
So Rutgers has a phenomenal freshman in Ace Bailey, and I think that. Yeah, right. I think that the curious thing to me is 2 technical fouls really upended all of the momentum that Rutgers had to threaten to steal that game. And I don't think it's wrong to suggest that Ace Baldwin partially baited him into at least one of them.
Of course he did.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, this is senior veteran genius at work. To know time and place, to know how to handle your emotions, to be able to manipulate a younger guy who was fired up in the moment in a hotly contested, highly competitive game. And so Penn State, Mike Rose said it last Friday, he had some frustration at how Penn State was finishing games. You and Dick pointed it out the other night after the last loss that they had, I think, at Michigan State, how close all of the losses were absent the Illinois game.
Yeah.
Right? All of the losses that Penn State has had this season have been relatively low margin, single-digit margins. And so Rhodes has been frustrated that they haven't closed out games the way that they wanted to, and they almost didn't again on Monday night, but they responded and got it done, and they desperately needed to.
Yeah, no, they did, without question. I know the Yannick foul meant something. I'll tell you what, the turning point of the entire game for me, Rutgers was up 53-50, and Martini came down the floor and just fired up a 28-foot shot, which he missed. I looked at Dick. I said, mark it down. There's the turning point. And then they ran off 11 straight. Again, sometimes you do something that is out of the realm of what you're supposed to be doing, and he did that at that point. I saw Minnesota almost lose the game last night because of the same shot.
Yep. No, it's look. Penn State's going to be in a bunch of these types of games, and you would expect or anticipate that due to the veteran leadership that they have and the guys that have been playing ball for a long time, that they would be in a better place to weather some of those situations than they have so far this season. But I do think a lot of the I don't want to say fan sentiment of giving up on this team or whatever. I just think this is too good of a team. All of the analytics, all the metrics say that this is a good team that will continue to be competitive, even though I do think it is a major loss for them to be without Puff Johnson for, quote-unquote, a while. For Mike Rhodes. It's still a team that's positioned very, very well to compete really here through the rest of January into February.
You're the best. I know you don't want me to say that, but you do like the fact that I think that.
I like it. I appreciate it. Coming from the best, it means more.
Oh, I don't know about that, but thank you for thinking that. Hey, my friend, thanks so much. Appreciate it. I know there's a lot to cover here. Man, at some point, and I noticed they're not playing this weekend, so I'm not all that concerned about how long it takes to get a defensive coordinator.
That's correct. It'll be fine. Yeah. It'll all work out.
All work out. Nevada's not for a while. Hey, thanks, Nate.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Nate Bauer. Ask me any question you want anytime.
Can I get insurance on losing money at the track before I go? Because that's what I probably need more insured than anything else in my life.
I mean, you're talking to a guy who's about to go with Girardi in 2 weeks to Santa Anita. So you and I may have to go in together.
Oh, no, if you're going with Girardi, that's taking insurance with you. That's a smart move on your part.
See, again, that is my personal two-legged insurance policy at the track.
Can't go wrong with Dickie J at the track.
Oh, he's something else. And he'll look at me sometimes and go, I had a great day. Then he'll look at me and goes, it didn't go so well. Him not going so well means he's still ahead. I mean, it's amazing. Okay.
He could have been up a couple thousand. Instead, he's only up a couple of hundred. That's a bad day at the track, Girardi.
Okay, you and I. Okay, and for every business person out there, that means for the day you're in the black. All right, so so let's start with this. Philadelphia is tremendous. What's fun about Barkley is this. It is like watching Mike Schmidt. Right? It's like watching some of the great home run hitters that you saw during your time, when every time the guy came to the plate, how many times do you sit at Shea and think to yourself, he's going to hit it out? I feel like every time Barkley touches it, there's a potential it's going to be a home run. What do you think?
You know what the funny thing about Saquon and this hot streak that he is on has been, personally for me, I was doing shows in New York still on WFAN when the Giants picked him number 2 overall, and I had to field a whole bunch of calls about what the hell are they doing? They can't take a running back. They so desperately need a quarterback. And I tried to tell Giant fans, no, this kid is special. He is a once every 5 to 10 year type back. If they can do everything else, he's going to be great for them. Well, unfortunately, they couldn't do everything else, and I will absolutely say Saquon's talents were wasted in New York.
Yes.
And it's just very nice that he's playing with a team that not only knows how to use him, but can dot all the other I's and cross all the other T's and benefit from him being as good as he is.
That's what I said to him back in May last time I talked to him. And I said, you must wake up every day and look at those 5 guys and think to myself, all right, now I get to play football. I mean, those 5 guys up front, amazing.
And throw Goddard in that mix, too, because he's one hell of a blocking tight end.
Love Goddard. I agree with you. Goddard. In fact, I brought that up with somebody else a couple of weeks ago about the value of Goddard in all of this. Okay, Jalen Hurts, in your opinion, how well is he seeing the field? He's not making a lot of mistakes, but how well is he seeing the field right now?
Good question. I would say not as good as he can. Not terrible. Some people would make you think that Jalen Hurts is playing terrible quarterback. He's not. He's just not putting up massive numbers because why wouldn't you hand it to Saquon Barkley and just continue to let it churn down the field and score a touchdown? So his numbers are off a little bit. And I've said both in the last two playoff games, there was one or two or three plays each game where I just thought he wasn't ready to pull the trigger on something that was open. But it hasn't had an ill effect. They haven't lost either of the two games. Right. And, oh, by the way, Jalen Hurts has exactly 0 turnovers, be it either a pick and or a fumble. So while he's not burning the opposition, he sure as hell isn't helping them, and he's still winning games for the Eagles.
Yeah, that's the big part, that he is not turning the ball over. But again, I go back, when the Rams played the Vikings, they sacked Sam Darnold 9 times. Why did he get sacked 9 times? Well, part of it's the Rams' pass rush. I mean, Verse is very talented, among others. And Darnold holds on to the ball too long. I'm watching Hurts the other day, and there were 7 sacks. And my first thought was, boy, he sure is holding on to the ball a long time. And I thought that was the Darnold problem.
Yeah, like I said, there's always a couple each game where I go, pull the trigger, and he hasn't done it. And it could be a problem if he didn't have Saquon bailing him out with all the great runs that he's had. What I was buoyed by last week was the early running touchdown by him, because I thought that was going to open up the rest of the game for him. If they've got to play him and they've got to play Saquon, that means they can't be playing 2 high safeties and double teaming wide receivers and the like. Unfortunately, he got hurt thereafter, and I think he played hurt the entire game. So I think the opposition could pick up on that as well and say, all right, we don't have to leave a spy just to see him. And then, he was a little slow on a couple deliveries. But again, 75%, that's a pretty good number. 25 of 20 or 15 to 20, that's pretty damn good. I'll take that.
And I'll tell right now, I'll take that defense, the way they're playing right now. No Nakobe Dean, and I thought they did a great job, in my opinion, on Sunday of masking his absence. How did you feel about that?
Oren Burks was fine. He played. I thought he played the pass pretty well. Yeah. But coverage. He played the run pretty well. Mm-hmm. Coverage on tight ends. Oh, by the way, that's Zach Ertz coming back to town, and he's playing pretty damn well for them right now. It does scare me a little bit. There's a drop-off, or whatever you're going to do, and I thought Fangio was great last week. I talked to a couple of guys about this, that he's the straightest shooter I've seen as an Eagle assistant coach in a long time. He'll actually say something, and you can go to the bank with it. Last week, he actually pulled the wool over the Eagle beat writer's eyes, which I didn't believe he could and or would do, when he made it sound like Jeremiah Trotter could be getting serious action in the game last week against the Rams' lineup. Hey, he's got a great future, and maybe the future is now. Everybody thought, oh, that means Jeremiah's going to play. Burks played every single snap from the line of scrimmage. So it's Burks' job. Burks is solid. Burks is not Nakobe Dean.
No, and again, we can always talk about next man up. There's a reason why the other guy's starting. Like, there's multiple reasons why the other guy's starting. As simple as that. The Rams of the last 2 possessions, for the most part, went no huddle and didn't substitute. And the Eagles look like, because of the pattern, look, it's going to happen to anybody. Like, they did a good job of wearing them out a little bit. Washington doesn't huddle. Any concern about that?
Legit, because you're right. They did move the ball down the field damn quickly when they needed to get within 1 score, and then got the stop, got the ball back, and Eagle defense finally came up with the stop that they needed. Yeah, the hurry up wasn't the best, and it doesn't make sense, because if the Eagles were a major substitution team, then I would go, oh, the other team is keeping the Eagles from getting their best players on the field. The last couple of weeks of the regular season, sans the one game that they didn't try and win, and the first playoff win, they were playing guys 100% of the snaps on defense, 95% of the snaps on defense. They don't take Jalen Carter off the field anymore,
right.
So they can't use that as an excuse. The thing that scares me a little bit off the two matches that these two teams have already had this year is that the previous game, the Eagles let the Skins, they were up 2 Barkley touchdowns in the fourth quarter, put them up by 16, and they let the Skins go right down the field and get an, oh, by the way, touchdown. Last week against the Rams, after Barkley goes in from way out, they go into prevent defense, they go right down the field and score. If I had Vic Fangio's ear for 30 seconds, I would tell him, you got to tighten up that defense with a lead in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
You don't want, you got them down, step on their necks, don't let anybody get back up.
Look, you and I both know the game's about matchups. Whether it's been Ron Rivera as the head coach or now Dan Quinn, for whatever reason, Washington has played Philadelphia tough. Right? Doesn't mean Philadelphia's lost every game. Philadelphia's won most of the games. But Washington, for whatever reason, has been the one team that plays them tough. Is there a matchup or two that Washington has that allows them to stay within hailing distance and give themselves a shot against Philadelphia, as you've watched over the years?
Yeah, your point is right on, spot on, that for whatever reason, kind of like in baseball, the Marlins always give the Phillies a hard time.
Yeah.
Even when the Marlins are, no questions asked, the last team in the NL East, they always play well against the Phillies. Commanders have been the last team too many times in the last 10 years, but they almost always play the Eagles tough. I would not be surprised if that's the case again here. After the game on Sunday, I was in my national show on the Infinity Sports Network, and I tried to come up with my own line for the game, and I said, they'll show them some respect because of their 2 playoff wins, and I mean the Commanders. I thought they'd set the line at 4.5, at most 5. And sure enough, they set it at 4.5, exactly what I projected. The fact that it's gone up a little bit to 6, and in some places 6.5, does surprise me. I think this game will be decided in the 59th minute. They've played 2 close games so far this year. I would expect them to play a third.
Jaden Daniels, 3-year starter at Arizona State, 2-year starter at LSU, Heisman Trophy winner, gets into this league. What is your thought on what kind of player he is now?
One that is getting a lot of credit, as he should. Last year, Stroud had arguably, statistically, the best year any rookie quarterback has ever had in the league. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Daniels topped him this year, so he's had the best rookie quarterback season ever in the year, which says a lot. The one thing that I'll tell you, I think he doesn't get quite enough credit for it I think he deserves. I think he plays smart.
Yeah.
And that's not what you get with rookie quarterbacks. Sometimes they get over aggressive or they make a judgment mistake. This kid plays smart. Does he have the greatest arm I've ever seen? No. But he knows when and how to throw the football, and he never throws the football, it seems to me, in a foolish place. You don't usually get that from quarterbacks, and it'll be up to the Eagles and their frontline pressure to see if they can force him into a mistake or two, get a tip ball or two, because he's not going to throw you into an interception.
No, he's not. And you mentioned Ertz already, and then there's Terry McLaurin. I mean, he does have people to throw to, and Robinson is not Barkley, but he's not a bad running back. I mean, it's not. They're not playing the little sisters of the poor here. Washington's a pretty good team in a lot of ways.
And you have to hope that Quinyon Mitchell and Isaiah Rodgers played fine last week. He had one ball that he should have picked off.
Yeah.
He let the receiver pull out of his hands, but otherwise he didn't play terrible. But Quinyon is the guy who needs to be on the other side from big play flag. If you have those two, you don't have to worry about chasing McLaurin all over the field. You have confidence in your two guys, and or if he goes into the slot with your slot guy too, they need their top 3 cornerbacks out there to stop Washington's passing game. And trending is if Mitchell will be fine. We won't know probably till game day because I don't think he's going to do a lot during the week. But he said he thought he'd be fine by Sunday, and I'll take Quinyon at his word.
What a player he is. Man, what a player. Kansas City, Buffalo. What's your read on that game?
Close. Much like the Eagles and the Commanders, that's an even tighter spread. The Chiefs are just a couple of points favored because the Bills already beat them this year, proved that they could beat them But you did see last week that there are some guys that are just better players the bigger the spotlight. Mm-hmm. And Kelsey is one of those guys. Yeah. He came up huge from the other day, and I expect him to do the same again on Sunday. In Kansas City, I lead toward the Chiefs, and I think if the Eagles win, which I'm going to pick them to do, I think Eagle fans will be perfectly happy with it. Taking another shot at the Chiefs and Andy Reid, they'd probably die for it, for that to be the New Orleans matchup.
Yeah. When you see Josh Allen, what are you seeing that maybe other people don't see with him? Because I obviously most people think he's terrific.
As do I. Hey, I've apologized for Josh Allen for years now because I didn't get a chance to see him enough on the collegiate level, and he played at a lesser level, and I thought it was a risk to take him in the top 10. Mm-hmm. Buffalo didn't. Buffalo knew. Buffalo was right. Yeah. So I've been praising Josh Allen and mea culpas from yours truly for years now. So if Josh Allen goes in there, I think he's the MVP. I know some people think that just by the numbers that Lamar should get it. For me, it's Josh Allen. Now, the playoffs and tomorrow's game had nothing to do with that. The fact that he beat Lamar straight up last week has nothing to do with it either. But I think he deserves to be the MVP in the National Football League. That's a pretty good honor.
You know what? I'll give you a quick story, Jody, and it goes back to when his senior year in college. I spoke to the Penn State club in Michigan the night before a Penn State-Michigan game, and it was at the Convocation Center in Eastern Michigan, which is attached to the football stadium. Well, when the speech was over, and it was compelling, I mean, standing ovations, plaudits, it was incredible. I mean, so I'm done with the speech, and I go out. I watched Josh Allen play because Wyoming was playing Eastern Michigan. So I got that chance in college to see him actually firsthand. I go, well, this guy's pretty good, but I didn't think he was going to do this.
He's talented. He's got an arm. He's got the size. He's got the nerve, which I think is a necessary factor. Kind of what I like about Jaden Daniels as well. Yeah. Willing to pull it down, can make a play. Isn't always going to just go into a slide. When he thinks he can get an extra 5 yards, he's going to try and put a move on. He is a true weapon in the National Football League. Now, Spagnuolo's as good a defensive coordinator as there is, and he always seems to figure out a way to disguise his blitzes and get to the quarterback. So Josh isn't going to have a walk in the park this week, but I truly believe that's a toss-up game.
I'm with you. All right, one final note on the track insurance. Maybe I can work out something where I can let you rent Girardi.
He returns my text when I need him. I try not to tap into him often, but he does return my text. And if you have to tell him anything this weekend or when you're going to Santa Anita, say Jody Mack says Owen the Almighty will be the upset winner of this year's Kentucky Derby. I've already got some winter book bets in. So if and when it happens, I want Girardi to know that I told you about it in early January rather than the week of the Run for the Roses.
It may come up in conversation tonight. So, all right, my friend, thank you so much. You're the greatest. Appreciate you.
Steve, always a pleasure. Anytime, bud.
You bet. That is the great Jody McDonald. Man, I can't. Believe me, it's going to come up in conversation tonight. I'm telling you. We'll come back with more in a moment. This half hour brought to you by Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. Auto, home, life, business, boat, motorcycle, RV. They do a great job with every insurance need. Plus, they do everything they can to save you money. Customer service means everything to them at Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com on News Radio 1070 WKOK.